Today we're going to be talking about Sword of Trust, directed by director Lynn Shelton. And it came out in 2019. First of all, I just wanted to give a big rest in peace, big shout out to director Lynn Shelton, who directed this movie. I'm doing this in tribute to her. This is for you, Lynn Shelton. I got you. Um, yeah, she died not too long ago. Um, tragedy. I think I watched this movie on the day that she died. Um, so yeah, we're gonna talk about it in respect to her. Um, the word of the day today is whimsical. I don't have a definition of whimsical, so let me look it up. All right, whimsical is an adjective. It means playfully quaint or fanciful, especially in an appealing and amusing way. You can kind of guess why I chose this word. This movie is very playfully quaint and fanciful, especially in an appealing and amusing way. This movie is just lovable. It's got that real indie feel. It's funny. It's got great characters, um, and it is whimsical. It's the perfect way to describe it. Let's talk about the dialogue first. It's really funny. It surprised me with how it didn't feel like it was trying too hard to be funny, but just the way they spoke and how real it felt, and the quick snappy comebacks from the main character. I forget his name, but the owner of the pawn shop or whatever, the thrift store, or I don't know, the owner of the shop. He and the actor too, did a real good job. I should probably be pulling up these names. Mark Maron does a good job of keeping it real in this movie. Um, and I think a lot of the movie's humor kind of comes from that realness, and that it doesn't feel like someone typed these words into a script and they just read from it. It felt like these were just people having normal conversations, talking normally. um, and I think a lot of this movie was improvised, and the director Lynn Shelton, she did a good job of maintaining improvisation and making it that so the dialogue feels real. Um, so props to that. Props to the actors and to the direction, and the writing. It's all very good. Um, I think now's a good time to talk about the characters. I really loved the two boy characters. Um, those guys were funny as hell. Those guys were real. Those guys I felt for. Um, as for the two girl characters, I felt that they were kind of dry at times. I didn't really care about them. They kind of seemed asshole-ish. I never really was like rooting for them or anything. On the other hand, their dynamic is really good. I'd say the girls by themselves aren't as entertaining as the boys by themselves, but when you clash the two together, that dynamic is better than anything they could have done by themselves. And they did a really good job. The actors, they all did a really good job of bouncing off of each other. They don't necessarily love each other or anything, but they need to work together, and the way they bounce off each other comedically is really funny as well. There's a whole sequence where one of the main girl characters and one of the main guy characters are just talking about fucking what was it? They were talking about the like the Earth being flat, and just crazy conspiracy theories, whether ghosts are real, and it was genuinely just funny. That being said, the movie can be campy at times, or it can feel very campy. Um, the writing kind of goes in directions where it's just awkward, and it's just kind of cringe worthy. It's just like um, but yeah, that's about the only problem I have with the writing. Something I didn't like about the film was that there's a big pause in the second act in a truck sequence where they just share backstory. It halted the movie tremendously, and it lasted for a while too. It wasn't just like a 2 minute sequence. It could have been, I think it was like five, or maybe it could have extended to like 7-10 minutes. um I don't exactly remember, but it was long, and it felt long. A lot of the dialogue in that sequence didn't even seem relevant, because a lot of it had to pertain to this B story that I also felt didn't seem super relevant, about this girl who's played by director Lynn Shelton, um, and how she's involved with Mark Maron's character. Um, and It's brought up at the beginning, it's brought up in the truck sequence, and then it's brought up like once at the very end. And it just felt kind of out of place. Maybe there's a meaning there that I'm not seeing, but it just didn't feel. I don't know. It felt kind of thrown in there, especially for the casual viewer. They're gonna be like, "What the fuck? What's this all about?" I think this film also needed something to make it a little bit more deeper. They had the lesbian couple. They had the whole plot revolving around racist Confederates. Uh, they had, the crazy conspiracy theories. I think they just needed to do something more with it. It feels very much like a sitcom, or one of those TV shows where it feels episodic, and it feels like these characters are going to these places, and they're resolving problems. But nothing really big comes out of it. Nothing life changing for these characters. Nothing crazy. You know. Um, I think they just needed to use what they had a little bit better to make this to give the story an extra level that I felt that it could have had. But this film is very satirical of conspiracy theorists like flat earthers, and the people in this film who thought that the Sword of Trust confirmed that the Confederates beat the Union in the Civil War. It's very satirical, much like The Simpsons in that sense, and that's something I really liked about it. The film doesn't take itself too seriously. At times, I felt this to work very well. Like I said, it feels like an episode of The Simpsons. Um, but other times, it feels kind of lazy. Like I said, how they don't really do anything uh, to add an extra layer to the film, or enforce heavy themes, besides just being satirical. In the end, I wish I could have seen more from these characters. It was a very entertaining film to watch, and I, I think it was a breath of fresh air, compared to all these big blockbusters that we're seeing. This film came out in 2019, and it feels very much like Clerks, which is another indie film, but that's from like what, the 90s, early 2000s. This came out last year. I really like the set designs. Everything about this movie, the actors, everything about this movie just feels very indie. I think that's such a breath of fresh air. I want to see the budget on this film. I can't find a budget, but it only made 322,000 at box office. I think I unfortunately didn't get a chance to see this film in theaters, because I hadn't even heard about this movie before you know the news of director Lynn Shelton's death. But I think more people need to see these movies, and I want to work to try to see more of these type of movies in theaters and support smaller filmmakers. But yeah, this movie's fun. It's super enjoyable. It's only an hour and 28 minutes. So if you ever have time in your day, go check out the movie. It's really funny and really entertaining to watch. Yeah. I'm not one to give scores. So I guess that's just the end of the video. I don't know. See ya, I guess.